conquer the multiverse, marry superheroines, and unlock godlike powers. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 41. Jean Grey. Phoenix Force. Stark, you know, we can't offend Dongfang Xing because of this. Fury said helplessly, why don't you change your request? Shield will try to satisfy you. The corner of Stark's mouth twitched. Is it because he would rather not have him participate in the plan than say no to Dongfang Xing? Nick Fury, are you sure? Stark issued an ultimatum. Fury on the opposite side also has a headache. Why are these two competing? But what is more important? I see. Stark gritted his teeth. As for the Avengers technical consultant you mentioned, you should find someone else. Put down harsh words. Stark hung up the phone directly and smashed the phone on the coffee table. Pity, the tempered glass was not something he could smash, but the shattered phone case, which cut his palm. Pepper yelled, hold on. I'll clean up. She hurriedly brought the medicine kit, disinfected and bandaged Stark. Seeing that Stark was still furious, he couldn't help suggesting, Tony, why don't we go back to Los Angeles? Just walking away in such a disheveled way, doesn't that make me look scared? Stark said unconvinced, he wants the tallest building, right? Give it to him. Go buy the land near the Osborn building and build it directly around him one lap. Pepper opened his mouth. But Stark was still in a rage, and it was impossible to listen to the advice. I had no choice but to nod in response. Do you still want to go to the World Expo that will be held that night? Don't go. Stark said without any hesitation, you just go for these things. Okay, then I have to catch a flight. That's our own private jet, it should be waiting for us. That has to go, doesn't it? It won't fly by itself. The voice fell. On the top of the Shuguang building opposite, a Quinjet airliner floated in the air, picked up Dongfang Xing and Natasha Romanoff, and flew away. Pepper. Stark. On the Quinjet, Dongfang Xing didn't know, because of his own words, Stark and Fury broke up directly. Now, he looked at the light and luxurious cabin decoration, and nodded in satisfaction. Professor X, are you sure you have an appointment? Dongfang Xing asked. Professor X welcomes the arrival of the boss. Natasha Romanoff said, it's just that his telepathy is very strong, boss. Don't worry. Dongfang Xing said indifferently, he is very strong, but our Star Clan has set up spiritual protection. Don't say he can't break it, if he can break it, our Star Clan will have a large force. One sentence made Natasha Romanoff nervous. No wonder Dongfang Xing said back then that exploring his mind without authorization was an act of war. Fortunately, Professor X failed at the beginning. Otherwise, what the Earth has to face is the Star Clan behind Dongfang Xing. A Dongfang Xing can handle General Zod, if this is a fleet. Unimaginable. Then you rest and call me whenever you need. Natasha Romanoff retreated outside the cabin and immediately reported this information. As soon as Fury received it, he immediately called Professor X. Don't be afraid of 10,000, just in case, you must remind me. Otherwise. Because this matter caused a lot of trouble, that would be too wronged. By the way. New Jersey, Xavier Academy for Gifted Youngsters. The Quinjet landed in the playground, which attracted the attention of many students, but they were all used to it. X-Men also has vertical takeoff fighters, which are parked in the underground hangar, and they can be seen when they are usually on missions. Got off the plane, Dark Phoenix Jean Grey, pushing the Professor X forward. This piano, it's not the old Jean in the old version of X-Men, but the young and beautiful Jean in the movie X-Men, Dark Phoenix. Standard blonde hair, blue eyes and long legs, but with a noble temperament, there is also a kind of secret shock in the eyes. Like a walking queen, people want to conquer her. And Phoenix Force, like infinite gems, comes from the primordial universe and was born at the beginning of all things. It is an existence comparable to Chaos Force. Result. As expected, I read it right. To meet the Phoenix Force here, even if it's just a fragment. Dongfang Xing said with emotion, but it's too stupid to imprison it forcefully. Professor X and Jean were stunned when they heard this. Are you talking about another power in me? Jean asked urgently, I accidentally absorbed it in space, but I couldn't control it, so I can only. You definitely can't control it anymore. Dongfang Xing pouted and said, Phoenix Force was born together with the original universe, it is the beginning of all things, no one can control it. These remarks made Jean open her mouth, not knowing how to react. But Professor X responded quickly. Then how can we ensure that the Phoenix Force will no longer go berserk? Dongfang Xing looked at Qin. Before that, I need to ask a question. Qin, how would you deal with someone who hates you and even wants to kill you? Episode 42. The Bride Price. Professor X's test. Dongfang Xing, how will you deal with it? Definitely killed him. Qin said without hesitation. Although the X-Men take safeguarding the world as their own responsibility, they are not merciful Madonnas. Wait. Jane opened her eyes wide. You mean? That's right. Dongfang Xing nodded and said, Phoenix Force has emotions, it is not a dead thing that cannot communicate. Will you reject your companions? Or even kill them? Professor X nodded thoughtfully. So, what Jean is going to do, accept it and fight with it. The reason why the Phoenix Force goes berserk is because Jean is afraid of it and wants to destroy it, so it's an instinctive counterattack? Dongfang Xing shrugged, the answer was obvious. However, once I release the restraint, it will run away. Qin said distressedly, it has never communicated with me. Indeed. Professor X said helplessly, the last time Qin went berserk, it was almost, even if I use the brainwave strengthening machine, it's hard for me to imprison her again. Unsolvable puzzle. But Dongfang Xing is here today from Benqin. The Phoenix Force is indeed powerful, but if it is just fragments, Dongfang Xing can still resist it now. There is a system barrier to the destruction of the power of the mind. The annihilation of Phoenix Force is also a kind of vector, which can be rebounded by vector control. Perfect restraint. So, if it's just Phoenix Force fragments, it shouldn't hurt me. Dongfang Xing said with a smile, I'm also very interested in the power of this original universe, so I'm here today. Qin was shocked. She even left Professor X behind and stepped forward to Dongfang Xing. Is it really possible? I don't need to lie to you. Dongfang Xing spread his hands and said, after all, if I'm not sure, I won't bet my life. Qin is overjoyed. It's great. It's really great. Qin Xan said happily, it has kept me from sleeping all these years, because I'm afraid that it will explode suddenly and my companion. Hey. Your attitude is wrong. Dongfang Xing interrupted, I said it all, just like making friends, understand and accept it. Qin smiled awkwardly. This mentality is really not so easy to change for a while. Qin, go get ready first. Professor X suddenly said, I'll have a chat with Mr. Dongfang. Qin nodded in response. She looked at Dongfang Xing and said, then I'll wait for you by the side. Adjust your mentality, and leave the rest to me. Dongfang Xing said with a smile, Natasha Romanoff, you stay with Qin. Good. Okay. Boss. Qin turned her head 3 times at a step, and finally had hope, but she was really afraid that Dongfang Xing would run away. Dongfang Xing always smiled, saying that he is here and he is not going anywhere. Only then did Qin settle down and walk into the distance. This child, Qin, has suffered all these years. Professor X sighed, because of this Phoenix Force, even the opposite sex is not allowed to touch, and I haven't dated yet. Oh. Why did you mention this specifically? Meeting Professor X's wise eyes, it seems that he has seen through Dongfang Xing's goal. Give me a walk. Professor X said, I'll show you around our school too. Dongfang Xing shook his head. I don't like serving people of the same sex. He raised his hand and wiped Professor X's bald head, making the latter wonder how to react. Immediately shocked. Professor X slowly stood up from the wheelchair, looking at his legs in disbelief. This, okay? It's just repairing the damaged nerves, it's very simple. Dongfang Xing said casually, this is considered as a bride price. It's a showdown, he's here for the piano. Professor X has also experienced strong winds and waves, and he quickly stabilized his mind. Qin's matter depends on her wishes. I can't make the decision. As far as she is concerned, you are no worse than her father. Dongfang Xing said to himself, as long as you don't stop me, the rest will be left to fate. Professor X nodded, no longer dwelling on this question. Let's go, I'll show you around. Professor X walked forward briskly, without any sign of being paralyzed for a long time. The students I met along the way all exclaimed. Professor, how are you? Professor, can you go? Great, Professor. You stood up. Such big news, the students should have spread the word of mouth, and then came over collectively to congratulate. But people are walking less and less, until finally no one to bother. Professor X suddenly stood still and looked at Dongfang Xing. I only have one question. Professor X solemnly said, what is your attitude towards the Earth and human beings? What attitude? Dongfang Xing really didn't think about it, so he couldn't help thinking about it. Is the answer. After all, I have made a home here. If someone wants to destroy the Earth, they will come to demolish my house. I should not stand by and watch. As for humans, our family does not have the strange attributes of killing or devouring. As long as they don't come to provoke me, they can do whatever they like. Probably so. Are you satisfied? Professor X stared at Dongfang Xing's eyes, because the mental ability was invalid, so he could only use the simplest method. Dongfang Xing looked back calmly. This is indeed what he thinks, and there is nothing to be afraid of. 10 seconds later, Professor X suddenly smiled and raised his hand. Charles Xavier, my friends call me Charles, welcome to settle on Earth. Dongfang Xing shook hands with Xavier. Dongfang Xing, my friends call me Dongfang, you can be regarded as my second friend on Earth. My pleasure. Since then, even if Dongfang Xing is officially stationed on the Earth, although it will still be monitored, the trust level must be much higher than before. Xavier's temptation was obviously ordered by Fury. Episode 43. Dark Phoenix. Tough Phoenix Force. In response to Thunderbolt abandoning the Heavenly Emperor. Suggestion: delete the property panel value and change it to rating level. The abilities of Time Stop and Speaking Spirit are changed to conceptual skills. There is no consumption for using them, and only the assessment level affects the upper limit of ability. Please let us know. 50 kilometers away, the construction site. It used to be a wasteland here, but because of Dongfang Xing's choice, SHIELD started construction and planned to build a manor. Just in the stage of land reclamation. Dongfang Xing called Qin here to do a test. Don't worry about destroying anything, it's best if everything is flattened, and a big hole can be blown out to make an artificial lake. In a word, feel free to toss. At the same time, Fury, who got the news, also pointed the satellite here to watch the live broadcast. Don't be nervous. Dongfang Xing comforted, don't trust yourself too much, you can't hurt me. A teasing remark made Qin laugh endlessly. The tension dissipated. Thank you, I'm much better now. Qin lost focus and said, Charles asked me to ask you, can I link you with my heart? This. Dongfang Xing was definitely unwilling. But there are backups. Tiga, can you directly connect with Charles's spiritual power? Retrieving signals, high-frequency brainwaves are detected, and the high-frequency brainwaves can be simulated for docking. Do you want to execute it? Well, yes. Next second, just like the phone call before, Dongfang Xing can communicate with Xavier without barriers in his mind. Charles, I'm here. Huh? Isn't this your brainwave? Xavier wondered, a brainwave that I've never been in contact with. No. This is my brainwave? Don't guess, this is my dark matter computer simulation, you can understand that I am calling you. Dongfang Xing's explanation created a storm in Xavier's heart. A computer that can simulate brainwaves? And what about dark matter? It sounds awesome. Qin also stared at Dongfang Xing with strange eyes. There are really too many secrets about this alien. Make people. Can't help but want to explore. Okay, the preparations are complete. Dongfang Xing clapped his hands, remove your spiritual barrier. Ready, Jean? Xavier asked. Qin took a deep breath and nodded seriously. Crack, click, dash. In the broken sound that can only be heard in the spiritual world, orange-red flame-like energy continuously splashed out from Qin's body. The Mars fell on the ground and directly decomposed the soil, making the flat ground instantly pitted. Among them were a few small sparks, bouncing towards Dongfang Xing. The moment it touched him, it was refracted to the ground like light on a mirror. Vector control, absolute defense. Really, this thing can't hurt him at all, or Qin is too good to break through his calculation limit. Compared with Dongfang Xing's ease, Qin fell into huge amounts of pain, screaming with a ferocious face, and as the voice became louder, the fire on his body increased. In the end, he burned himself in the ashes and turned into a firebird behind Qin. At the same time, Qin's expression of pain changed, and she looked at Dongfang Xing without sadness or joy. Dongfang Xing smiled and said, welcome to the fresh air, I don't know what to call it. Dark Phoenix, the name I gave myself. Dark Phoenix narrowed his eyes and said, you let her liberate me? And you said, I can't kill you? You can give it a try. Dongfang Xing issued an invitation. You think I dare not? Dark Phoenix was held in the void, and a powerful Phoenix force emerged out of thin air, and together they crushed Dongfang Xing down. The land under Dongfang Xing's feet evaporated in situ, as if it didn't exist. At the same time, the instruments on the Earth that monitor the energy response are all directly pushed to the instrument values. However, it was such a high-energy move, but it still failed to shake even a single strand of Dongfang Xing's hair. He stood in the air calmly, looking at Dark Phoenix calmly. That look seems to say, "That's it?" Dark Phoenix is furious. Immediately increase the output of the Phoenix Force, and the Earth began to crumble, disintegrate, and dissipate around the two of them. The Firebird behind her is also full-fledged and has begun to evolve into the form of a phoenix. A few breaths, Dark Phoenix dug out a hemisphere with a depth of 1,000 meters by himself. And it exploded in the air, countless monitoring instruments. Even satellite images are scrambled into garbled characters. Seeing that, Fury was terrified. Taking human imaging satellites? Xavier is also worried. Because of the Phoenix Force, his spiritual power was isolated. Now, that area is blank. That is to say, he doesn't know if Dongfang Xing is alive or dead. After a few minutes, countless countries were shaken by it, but no one could find the source of the riot. The fluttering phoenix finally faded away. I saw. Episode 44. Fudge Dark Phoenix. Qin's fall. The fluttering phoenix subsided, revealing a bottomless sinkhole. The diameter of the pit surface alone is as long as tens of kilometers. Ralph, Fury and Xavier, who have seen the world, couldn't help but grow their mouths. Why, even if a nuclear bomb is detonated, such a big sinkhole cannot be blown up. But what shocked them even more? Dongfang Xing in the center of destruction was still unscathed, not even a single strand of hair changed. Outrageous. It's so fucking outrageous. Does this Earth still have the weapon that can kill him? Impossible. Dark Phoenix said incredulously, I have used all my strength, and the fire of the Phoenix can even annihilate the sun. How can you be safe and sound? Absolutely impossible. Dongfang Xing spread his hands, shrugged his shoulders, and tilted his neck 3 times. There used to be a host who collected hundreds of Phoenix Force fragments, who was also subdued by our Star Clan. You're just a piece of Phoenix Force, you can't hurt me. Dark Phoenix twitched. How do you know there are other fragments? Is it strange? Dongfang Xing joked, countless parallel universes form a multi-universe, and each parallel universe has a Phoenix Force fragment. Dongfang Xing said with a smile, you choose different hosts, and some of them cross the universe to collect Phoenix Force fragments from other universes. Speaking of which, the host that our Star Clan defeated should have come to devour you. Dark Phoenix opened his mouth slightly, with a shocked expression on his face. Although it can also vaguely sense that there are other fragments. But I didn't expect it to be so cruel. She is so strong, how can she be swallowed? Etc. If it wasn't for Qin not accepting her all the time, then after developing Phoenix Force to the limit, she should also choose. When Dongfang Xing saw Dark Phoenix's face, he knew that he had successfully fooled him. How about it, do you want to cooperate? Dongfang Xing bewitched, cooperate with me, I will protect you before you grow up, and when you have fully mastered the Phoenix Force, go to other universes to collect other fragments. Dark Phoenix's eyes were quite moved. But what do you want? What do you want? Dongfang Xing asked strangely, Qin is the woman I like. If you are strong, she will be strong. What do you think I want? Dark Phoenix opened his mouth, he just didn't know how to refute. I will think about it. It's a lot of consumption this time, and I need to sleep for a while. You protect her during this time, don't let me be swallowed up. Finished speaking, the Phoenix Force on Dark Phoenix surged back and disappeared in an instant. Qin also fell to the ground. Dongfang's eyes were quick and his hands were quick, he hugged Wan Xiang into his arms. After being cured with horse charm, Qin just woke up slowly. Coax, 2 streaks of orange-red Phoenix Force burst out from Qin's eyes, and she also had a look of joy at the same time. No, she accepted me. Qin said pleasantly, she gave me a part of Phoenix Force, let me get familiar with it first. Oh. This is just fooled Dark Phoenix? How come there is a sense of sight of abducting a little girl? Gentleman Dongfang Xing let go of the piano and opened a certain distance, but he could feel each other's breath. It was an ambiguous breath. Congratulations, you have successfully taken the first step. Dongfang Xing laughed. Qin looked at the empty surroundings, the edge of the endless Tianqing. It was hard to imagine what he had just experienced. She enjoyed the treatment of Dark Phoenix and was imprisoned in the depths of consciousness. I don't know anything about what's going on outside. Thank you too. Qin said gratefully, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't dare to untie it, let alone reach a settlement. Dongfang Xing smiled and didn't take the credit. Because. Qin, it's not as simple as you think. Xavier said solemnly, Dark Phoenix originally planned to directly replace your main character. It was only because Dongfang exhausted his strength that he had to sleep. Qin's breath is stagnant. What the hell? She almost never came back? With lingering fear in my heart, Qin's gratitude to Dongfang Xing became even stronger. Although you are in a good situation now, there is still some bad news to tell you. Dongfang Xing regretted, in the next period of time, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave me too far. Qin nodded. She told me to follow you, why? Dongfang Xing repeated the swallowing theory. That's it. The Dark Phoenix that was fully excited just now is tantamount to exposing its own coordinates to the multi-universe. The ability of our star clan, Tianka Phoenix Force, so it will be relatively safe to follow me. Otherwise, those who can cross the barrier of the universe, at least they can completely control the Phoenix Force, once you meet. Dongfang Xing didn't say much, but he understood everything. Qin Wenyan, there was no fear at all, but a little expectation in his eyes. I can finally have normal contact with the opposite sex. Still a handsome, enthusiastic, gentleman, powerful, and caring alien of the opposite sex. Dongfang Xing looked at Qin's eyes and knew that it was basically stable. It's just a matter of time before it's taken down. It was not in vain that he worked hard and wrote this script. Just about to cultivate the relationship again. Here comes the spoiler. Master, Tony Stark is calling. Do you want to connect? What is this guy looking for? For the highest in Manhattan? Rejected, I'm picking up girls, I don't have time. Yes, Dijia directly temporarily blocked Stark, the master of heaven and earth is the biggest. But. Ding 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 dash, it was Jean's phone that rang. She took out her mobile phone strangely, as if wondering why there is still a signal in the wilderness. After picking up the phone, she handed the phone to Dongfang Xing. It's Tony Stark who's looking for you. Dongfang Xing took the phone. With a bad tone, he said, you better have something to do. But Stark's words made Dongfang Xing's anger disappear. Didn't expect him to still be. Episode 45. Stark begs for help. Whip Corpse Harpy? Dongfang Xing took the phone and turned it on. You better be busy. He didn't pay much to Stark, so he decided that no matter what the other party said, he would teach him an unforgettable lesson. In no mood. Please. Please. Stark said urgently, I will agree to whatever you do or want afterward. Please go to Los Angeles right now and save Pepper. And Happy. Dongfang Xing, Although I don't want to see the current Stark, but the other party begged him directly. Sundara Stark, he begged for help. Tiga, where is Stark now? Manhattan, New York, top floor of Stark Building, understood. Guess Pepper is in danger in Los Angeles, and SHIELD can't fix it. Stark had no choice but to ask Dongfang Xing here. Have to say, the current Stark is certainly annoying, but the Iron Man who will snap his fingers in the future is really admirable. Otherwise, if he had offended himself with bad mouth, he would not have gone to the hospital for treatment. Okay, you send me the address. Okay. Now. Stark begged, please. Save Pepper. I can't lose her. If you talk nonsense again, she will really die. I'll shut up right away. Hang up the phone. Dongfang Xing looked at Qin and raised his hand to invite. I heard that the sunrise on Santa Monica Beach is good. Do you want to go and see it? Qin put her hand on Dongfang Xing's palm with a puzzled expression. Although I'd love to, it seems like he's in a hurry. How are we going to get there? I was a little anxious, so I offended. Just a reminder, Dongfang Xing pulled Qin into his arms with all his strength. Then. Send. The two disappeared in place and appeared directly 100 kilometers away. This is not the upper limit of Yanling, but the upper limit of Dongfang Xing. But. The ability of the system is free to use. Revised new settings, please let us know. So. Send. 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 Los Angeles to New Jersey is 4,000 kilometers, almost across the entire United States. The fighter jets are coming, and they have to start in an hour. But Dongfang Xing can cross this distance with only 40 thoughts. At the 41st teleportation, Dongfang Xing appeared in the sky above the World Expo, and the Qin in his arms was still in shock. This kind of ghostly flickering way, whoever experiences it will know. Now, the site of the World Expo was in chaos, and more than a dozen 3-meter-high steel soldiers were carrying out a massacre of steel against flesh and blood. Dongfang Xing glanced. The powerful supervision instantly locked Pepper hiding in the background. She was pointed at by 3 steel soldiers with cannons, and the bodyguard Happy lay not far away, with only the upper half of his body remaining, which proved that he had tried to resist. Seeing Dongfang Xing appear, all the steel soldiers exploded without any delay. The person behind this is also quite decisive. Seeing that Pepper is about to die. The time-stopping domain expands, and all destruction stops at this moment. Qin was dumbfounded. Time pause. It's time to pause. Dongfang Xing can even pause time? She was shocked. What else can this man not do? Dongfang Xing landed unhurriedly, immediately let go of Qin's hand, and then looked at Pepper, who was still in shock. I suggest you come out, otherwise you will still be killed when the time-stop domain is unlocked. Pepper was surprised. He jumped out with a stride, and stopped involuntarily when he passed by half-happy. She looked at Dongfang Xing with hopeful eyes. Dongfang Xing can heal Stark, who is in a vegetable state, and can also stop time. Perhaps. Can you save Happy too? Can you save Happy? Pepper begged. I know it's hard, but... Dongfang Xing kicked directly to the half-happy and flew out, and then returned to one happy when it landed, and the time stop was also unlocked. He was clutching his waist in doubt. Why is it so painful here? So fast, the words of Pepper's begging got stuck in his throat, and he couldn't speak anymore. Qin, on the other hand, accepted it quickly. Compared with what Dongfang Xing did before, this is just child's play. But your treatment method is quite special. Qin laughed. Oh, I'm just too lazy to bend over. Dongfang Xing shrugged and said, he's lucky he still has a breath, otherwise I'd be whipping corpses. Such an honest answer made Qin couldn't help laughing. Then if it were me, would you bend over? Qin pointed out. Impossible. Dongfang Xing shook his head directly. This made Qin's smile froze a bit. It turned out that it was her. Episode 46. Here's the window paper. Lucky Happy. It's impossible for me to hurt you, why do you need to treat it? Dongfang Xing wondered, if you do something to such a beautiful lady, I will give him ashes. Qin. I understand that I have been molested. Qin didn't get angry at all, but felt a little secretly happy. Dongfang Xing's boyfriend power is almost off the charts. Who cannot love this? Dongfang Xing stopped in moderation and did not continue to tease Qin. He looked at Pepper and Happy, who doubted his life. Stay away, I'm going to lift it. Pepper and Happy ran out in a hurry. Dongfang Xing took a quick glance to make sure that there was no lucky guy next to the other steel soldiers who blew themselves up. It is to untie the time-stop field. Boom, boom, boom. Brilliant fireworks exploded one after another, and the shockwave carried scorching airwaves, blowing Pepper and Happy's heads dizzy. Just 10 minutes ago, they need a long time to ease this memory. Pepper's phone rang, but she was in a daze and didn't answer it for a long time. Qin sees this, an orange light glowed on his hand, and he used the power of his mind to appease the two of them. Pepper came to his senses at this moment, and hurriedly answered the phone. Tony, I'm fine. I thought I'd never see you again. Good. After saying a few words, Pepper handed the phone to Dongfang Xing. Tony said he would thank you personally, and there would be a fee. Dongfang Xing waved his hand. In the future, just send me a copy of all the steel battle suits he produces. Dongfang Xing said, remember to load the weapons, it's not bad to be a big one. This condition. Pepper didn't know how to react, so he hurriedly answered the phone again. After speaking a few words to each other, she switched on the speakerphone, and Stark's voice came out. No problem. I agree to your terms. Thank you for saving Pepper. And Happy too. Otherwise, I really. No matter what happened in the past, you will be my friend of Tony Stark from now on. If you need anything, feel free to come to me. This should be praised. Although Stark is arrogant, he should admit it and won't deny it. That being the case. Then I'll give you a push. That's it, then you listen to a recording. Dongfang Xing smiled and asked Dijia to play a recording. Stark's eager tone sounded out of thin air. Please. Please. No matter what you do or what you want afterwards, I can agree. Please go to Los Angeles right now and save Pepper. And Happy. Please. Save Pepper. I can't lose her. 3 short sentences, it made Pepper, a female business elite, blush. Dongfang Xing. What are you doing? Stark said angrily, Pepper. Listen to me, my words are just. I said, the atmosphere is already here, why don't you confess? Dongfang Xing interrupted, are you a man? Can Stark bear this? Who is not a man? I admit it today, I just like you, Pepper. During that time in the cave, I swore that if I could get out, I would definitely marry you. So after I knew I was going to die, I handed over the company to Pepper, who was still ashamed before, suddenly changed his face. Dying? What is dying? Pepper asked. Ah, that was before, am I fine now? Are you going to die without telling me? Dongfang Xing was not interested in watching the couple quarrel, and walked back with his hands in his pockets, hiding his merit and fame. Qin also followed with a smile. It can be seen that you don't like Tony Stark very much. Qin asked, why do you still match them up? One matter is another matter. Dongfang Xing said casually, I don't hold grudges, because I usually report it on the spot. Today, the man who did Stark's matter, I don't need to care about it, do I? This generosity made Qin feel her heart tremble again. God. What kind of godman is this? I haven't met a man for more than 20 years, and now I just met such a top guy? Squeak. A Rolls-Royce stopped in front of the two of them, and Harpy got out of the driver's seat respectfully. Where are you two going, shall I see you off? Huh? Aren't you going to protect Pepper? Dongfang Xing asked strangely. SHIELD's agents have arrived, and they are much more professional than me. Happy said truthfully, I feel I may not be very qualified for this job. Is this the suspected life of being beaten? A body of flesh and blood against a body of steel, Harpy was still lying in front of Pepper, and it was not a shame to lose. On the contrary, he is very manly. Okay, old man, I didn't know that I thought you were abandoned from beginning to end. Dongfang Xing said with a smile, open your mouth. Happy didn't know why, but he opened his mouth anyway. Dongfang Xing took out strengthening potion KW89, wrapped the gold potion with psychokinesis, and stuffed it directly for him. You are pleasing to the eye, today I will be cheap for you. Wake up and have a good meal, and don't doubt this or that in the future. Finished speaking, Dongfang Xing grabbed Qin's waist and disappeared in place. Happy was still confused, only felt that his eyelids were getting heavier and heavier, and finally fell to the ground and fell asleep. Soon, Rumlow walked over quickly, looking at the sleepy Happy, with a gleam called jealousy in his eyes. As the captain of Hydra stationed in SHIELD, he naturally recognizes strengthening potion KW89. Fury paid so much to trade for one. That's how Happy got it? No. This will have to be written in the mission report later, to make that Fury angry too. Episode 47. Qin's self-strategy. Every wife loves it. Santa Monica Beach. Dongfang Xing and Qin flashed, and the sea breeze blew head-on. Tent. Beach chair. Flashlight. Dongfang Xing is like a creator, what he calls will manifest. Although they are only common items, they are enough to shock Qin. In the past, she might think that it was the ability to move space, store space, and the like. But with Phoenix Force, I experienced space teleportation many times. She can now perceive simple spatial fluctuations. And not now. These items were created out of thin air. 2. That's great, right? Every second spent with Dongfang Xing refreshes my understanding of the world. Dongfang Xing is also arranged. Turn around, seeing Qin staring directly at herself, she subconsciously glanced down. It's strange, there's nothing dirty. Could it be that I'm so handsome? Puff, a joke made Dongfang Xing fall from a god to a mortal. She lay casually on the beach chair, stretched lazily, and her whole body and mind relaxed. It hasn't been so easy for a long time. Qin Shuxin said, don't worry about running away, no students disturb, and surround yourself with interesting people. It's really a dream life. Dongfang Xing smiled and lay down beside Qin. Qin's body tensed up. After waiting for half a minute, Dongfang Xing did not see any new movements. Qin Kai slowed down again, feeling a little lost in her heart. Dongfang Xing saw all of these in his eyes. He knows, now the piano has fallen. It may not be enough to take a blood, but if it is a kiss, she will definitely not refuse. But Dongfang Xing prepared to slow down a bit. Can't always just have sex, love is also a kind of spiritual enjoyment. The two are like 10-year-old friends, lying leisurely on the beach, chatting about whatever comes to mind. No worries, no worries. Unconsciously, Qin just stopped talking and fell into a deep sleep. There is a sweet smile on the corner of the mouth, it should be a sweet dream. Dongfang Xing waved his hands with a smile, condensed a blanket, and covered the piano with psychokinesis. On the other hand, he looked at the bright starry sky and was in a daze. It has been less than half a month since I came to this world, and from the first day, I have been playing songs every night and prostitution during the day. A rare opportunity to be alone. Dongfang Xing is a very planned person, subconsciously began to think, what is his position in this world? Superhero? Or the savior? Well, the former is too tiring, and there will be 2B people coming to fuck you, because of your status, you can't argue with them. In the end, there was a Sokovia Act, which is the same as the Mutant Registration Act. To be a superhero, you have to register and be disciplined. 2 aggrieved. As for the savior, it's not his own world, who wants to save it? To put it bluntly, holding the teleportation stone of New Krypton in his hand, even if the Earth is destroyed, he can move his family. I believe Zod will welcome him very much. Dongfang Xing can also take a spaceship to take a stroll in the universe. So, it's okay to make a paid shot, but it's not necessary to talk about being passionate about love. Actually collect collectibles and soak up high-quality women. Fresh clothes and angry horses, just enjoy life. As for Thanos snapping his fingers? Space gem, mind gem, if they dare to appear, they still want to leave the Earth? Dream. As long as Thanos dares to come to the Earth, let him come and go. Just so confident. Thinking about. Dongfang Xing also fell asleep. Di Jia was still very smart, and woke up Dongfang Xing before sunrise. Open your eyes, just in time, I saw Qin lying on her side and staring at herself, with a sweet smell in her eyes. Looked at each other for a few seconds, Qin just came to his senses, blushing up to his ears, and quickly turned his back to Dongfang Xing. Just at the moment, the morning glow of the sunrise splashed on the two of them, dyeing the clouds in the sky into rose petals, which reflected on the sea surface together with the sunrise, sparkling. The beauty made Qin forget the embarrassment and stared fixedly at the sky. Without blinking. Until this beautiful scenery disappears, it is the eyes that are still full of meaning. It was as if he wanted to engrave that scene in his brain. Is it so memorable? Dongfang Xing joked, if you want to see it, we can come every day in the future. Really? Qin opened her eyes in surprise. I mean, are you willing to accompany me to watch the sunrise every day? Isn't it wonderful to watch the sunrise with you? Dongfang Xing said with a smile, but it's just the two of us, I don't think there are many opportunities. After all, I have many wives, and everyone must be taken care of. In a word, Qin's aesthetic fantasy was suddenly shattered. Yes. Dongfang Xing will not only marry one. But then Qin was relieved. How could such a powerful man have only one spouse? And no way, I have the task of strengthening the Star Clan. Dongfang Xing pretended to regret, the chance of our Star Clan having offspring is very low. If we only marry one, it is very likely. Now the piano is more understandable. He is not doing it for his own selfish desires, but for strengthening the Star Clan. Dongfang Xing looked at Qin's expression and knew it was stable. This piano is almost an emotional novice, and looks like a love brain, better than Dark Phoenix to fool. Wrong. He has love for every wife, how can he be a fool? Episode 48. Gwen calls. The whole family is my fan? Let's go and have breakfast. Good. Let Di Jia search for a well-known breakfast restaurant in Los Angeles, and have a nice meal with Qin Mimi. Thinking about where to go next. Master, there is a call from Gwen. Gwen? It seems that awakening has begun. Wait for me, I'll answer the phone. Dongfang Xing said to Qin. Well, let's go. Dongfang Xing didn't leave, and answered the phone directly here. Anyway, you talk with your mind, and you are not afraid of being heard when you flirt with a girl. Hello. Who is this? It's me, Gwen Stacy. The other person said nervously, it's the blonde girl you handed me your business card at the elevator entrance of the Osborne building. Oh. It's you, I have an impression. Dongfang Xing said with a smile. Did the band perform well? Thank you for remembering this, but now there seems to be something wrong with my body. If you are bitten by the radiation spider you mentioned last time, what symptoms will you have? What symptoms? Dongfang Xing said while recalling. Maybe the strength will become stronger, things will stick when grasping, and there will always be strange sensations. The other side was silent. It's over. All hit. Then. I must have been really tricked. Gwen cried, how long can I live? Will I lose my hair? Can I still be saved? Obviously, the word radiation in the radiation spider made Gwen misunderstand something. Don't worry, just give me an address, and I'll come find you. Okay. I'm in Central Park, and I'll wait for you at the East Gate. Okay. After hanging up the phone, Dongfang Xing looked at Qin. Another small trouble came to my door. It was bitten by a radiation spider from my newly acquired company. I have to go and have a look. Please come to my door. Radiation spider. No matter how you listen to it, it is a serious problem. Qin nodded quickly. Dongfang Xing hugged Qin again and disappeared. Flashing 41 times in succession, came to the top floor of Dawn building. Glance, Louise's 3 daughters are not here, so they must be busy. You wait for me here. If you need anything, just press the number over there, and someone will do it. Oh. Don't you need me to follow? Qin asked unexpectedly. Dongfang Xing is going to pick up girls, how could he bring a piano? There will be a lot of movement across the universe. If something really happens, I will rush back as soon as possible. Dongfang Xing comforted. Qin is relieved. Okay, go get busy, I'll practice Phoenix Force. I'm leaving. Say hello. Dongfang Xing disappeared, came to the sky above the Central Park, and turned on absolute concealment so as not to attract attention. Glance, then I found Gwen who was rushing to the east gate of the park, her youthful face was full of worries. Flew over, when it was approaching, absolute concealment was lifted, and it landed 3 meters away from Gwen. In no mood, the absent-minded Gwen didn't pay attention, and bumped his head on Dongfang Xing's chest. Ah, feel sorry. I was distracted just now, you're fine. Ah. Alien savior? Gwen's expression ranged from panic, to apology, then surprise, and finally ecstasy. Didn't expect him to be his little fan? You like my appearance very much, do you want to sign it? Dongfang Xing joked. Definitely. I want it. Gwen said without hesitation, my father is the chief of the New York Police Department. When organizing the evacuation of civilians, he was targeted by a Kryptonian. All other colleagues died. It will be his turn. That Kryptonian suddenly stopped. You saved my father. Our whole family likes you. And what about this story? The difficulty of winning Gwen has dropped directly wirelessly. It was absolutely correct to make this deal with Fury. Okay, where to sign? Dongfang Xing raised his hand and used the word spirit tool to display a signature pen. Gwen looked around and found that there was no paper at all. But the chance to meet Dongfang Xing is rare, you can't let others wait for you, right? Turning his back decisively, he pointed at his white dress. Just sign it with me. Dongfang Xing smiled, and signed an artistic lottery chicly. During the whole process, only the tip of the pen fell, without any physical contact. This surprised Gwen, who didn't expect Dongfang Xing to be such a gentleman. Okay, let's talk about the radiation spider. Dongfang Xing smiled. Huh? Radiation spider? How do you know? Dongfang Xing didn't explain, and asked Tijia to adjust the light and change back to the handsome Asian. Gwen opened her mouth wide in shock. You, he, I. Dongfang Xing pressed his hands amusedly, and explained, Osborne Biotech was acquired by me. Although the radiation spider was a previous scientific research project, it is still my industry after all, so I will solve it myself. Don't worry, with me here, you won't die. On the contrary. There will be unexpected gains. Some words, take yourself out of the radiation spider by accident, and create a positive image of responsible. Let Gwen's favorability soar. The eyes that looked at Dongfang Xing were all shining. Just like Louise. Episode 49. Any request will do? Then exercise. Gwen's eyes are starry, and she has the proper posture of a little fangirl. Basically stable. Dongfang Xing was not in a hurry to be ambiguous, opened the king's treasure, and took out a piece of information. This is the project information of the radiation spider, you will know after reading it. Gwen was a little flattered. Especially when you see the line on the file bag, the top secret file of the military. Is this something I can see? Gwen wondered. I'll give it to you, no one will trouble you. Dongfang Xing said to himself. It made Gwen confident. He didn't know what he was thinking, his face turned red again, and he hurriedly took the document and blocked it in front of him. Dongfang Xing smiled without saying a word. It's only a matter of time before this girl is taken down. More difficult. Probably to let her parents agree to have multiple wives. But it's not a big problem if you think about it. Tiga, send a message to Fury and ask him to give Gwen's father a promotion. Has been sent. In a word, Gwen's father, George, was promoted. Because the states of the United States are self-governing, laws can also be made by themselves. If George, the chief of the police station, goes up, he should go to the city government for his official career. There is a high probability that it is a deputy mayor level. This is the deputy mayor of New York City. As for going further, the mayor or even the governor, it was up to Dongfang Xing and Gwen to determine the relationship. Thinking room, Gwen also finished reading the document, her eyes were inexplicable. The full name of the Radiation Spider Project is Super Soldier Project, which aims to reproduce the captain of the United States and create super soldiers. Those who are bitten by radiation spiders will gain various abilities of spiders. Super strength, super bounce, vertical climbing, silk spinning. Ultimate goal, it is to mass-produce super soldiers and become invincible killers. It's unbelievable that the military still conducts this kind of experiment, Gwen said with emotion. There are too many experiments. Dongfang Xing said with a smile, the Green Titan and Abomination that appeared some time ago are the products of another super soldier plan. Gwen slapped his forehead. What have these people done with our taxpayers' money? Dongfang Xing smiled without saying a word. Isn't it obvious to all that the United States military is urinating? So, I succeeded? Gwen asked, isn't this super soldier plan a failure? How can I? You are very lucky to have met me. Dongfang Xing said with a smile, after all, she is such a young and beautiful girl. It would be a pity to end her life like this. Dongfang Xing did not say the specific operation. But without any hesitation, Gwen attributed this 1 in a billion success rate to Dongfang Xing. I really don't know how to thank you. Gwen said gratefully, although my ability is limited, if you have any needs in the future, just mention them. Oh. Dongfang Xing raised his eyebrows and said, is it all right? Well. Anything works. Dongfang Xing smiled wickedly upon hearing this. Gwen was taken aback for a moment, and then his face turned red. Should he not? No way? If he really proposes, will she agree, or should she agree? Very well, let's do some exercise with me. Dongfang Xing said cryptically. Gwen's ears were red now, and she lowered her head, not knowing how to respond. Dongfang Xing stretched out his hand slowly, and Gwen quickly closed his eyes tightly. I can't see it. You can do whatever you want. However, Dongfang Xing's hand just landed on her head, followed by a strange sense of experience. Scared her to open her eyes, but he found that he was no longer in the park, but came to a closed room with various cold weapons by the wall. Could Dongfang Xing be? Want to exercise here? No. Gwen shook her head quickly, it's my first time. At least find someone. Ah. What's the first time? Dongfang Xing teased, just to test your ability, here is enough. Gwen. She was red to the base of her neck, and her head was still steaming. What a shame. It turned out to be this movement? But then she reacted and glared at the smiling Dongfang Xing. Are you deliberately misleading me? Ah, you are so cute, I can't help but tease you. Dongfang Xing apologized with a smile, as compensation, let's help you get familiar with ability first. Snort. Gwen masked her embarrassment with anger, and began to do the test. Strength is the most intuitive, Dongfang Xing embodied a ton of iron, said to grab it and grab it. Still no need for a handle, you can grab it with your hands. Climbing on smooth walls, facing away from dodge projectiles, even shot the first cobweb from the wrist. Episode 50. Gwen's Reward. Father-in-law's Invitation. One afternoon test, Gwen has a preliminary understanding of her ability. And, because of the existence of Dongfang Xing, it was easy to accept this result. Aliens have some alien technology, isn't that normal? I'm definitely better than the captain of the United States now. Gwen excitedly said. Whether it's strong or not, you'll know after a fight. Dongfang Xing said casually. He woke up yesterday, and he should be in good health now. Gwen, Sigma, QQ winky face. She grabbed Dongfang Xing's arm and stared at him excitedly. The captain of the United States is still alive? It is said that he has been frozen for 70 years, so he has hardly aged. Dongfang Xing nodded and said, Shield called me to treat him, he just woke up yesterday. Can I play against the captain of the United States? Gwen asked expectantly. Just a fight? Don't you want to sign? Dongfang Xing looked playfully. Gwen seemed a little moved. But sensing the signature behind her, she still shook her head. Just your signature is enough. Is this a gesture of affection? Dongfang Xing is very satisfied. After all, there will always be a thorn in the way of her own woman chasing another man, screaming and cheering for him. It seems that, although Gwen is only 18 years old, he is still very sensible. Wait for me, I'll ask. Confessed, Dongfang Xing left in a flash. 10 seconds later, Dongfang Xing flashed again, and beside him was Rogers in casual clothes, with a shocked expression on his face. For an old antique 70 years ago, teleportation is still too advanced. Seeing her childhood idol, Gwen thought she would be very excited. But not at all. Whether it's appearance, or ability, Rogers is all visible to the naked eye, which is a bit worse than Dongfang Xing. Even though the spirit of the United States that the United States has always advocated is no match for Dongfang Xing's title of savior. Although Rogers also saved the world, but only to prevent human civil war. Dongfang Xing drives away the aliens. The former is at most social regression, and human beings will not become extinct. The latter, the Earth will be transformed by others, and there will really be nowhere to escape. Such a comparison. Rogers looks like a lot of common. Suddenly I don't want to fight anymore. Gwen looked at Dongfang Xing. You should train with me. Oh. Are you sure? I'm sure. Okay, then I'll take Rogers back. Rogers hadn't recovered yet, so he was sent away. Come back again. Gwen is not so much training as ambiguous. It wasn't until a phone call came that Gwen stopped still. Wiped off the sweat, Gwen glanced at the phone. His complexion changed drastically. It's 10 o'clock in the evening? I missed the gate. Gwen looked at Dongfang Xing. Can you take me home? Otherwise, my father will definitely punish me. Who can refuse the entreaties of beautiful women? Okay, where's your geology? Yeah. Trojan horse. Gwen jumped up and kissed Dongfang Xing on the cheek. Reward for you. She blushed and reported the address, and hugged Dongfang Xing automatically. Quick. Let's go back. Dongfang Xing touched his cheek. Why does it feel like it's not him who picks on Gwen, but Gwen wants to take him down? Brush. The two appeared at the door of Gwen's house, and Gwen reluctantly let go. Although it's only for half a day, but Gwen clearly understood that she had been attracted by Dongfang Xing. This difference. We can meet again, right? Gwen, she said, I mean, there may be hidden dangers in my body, I'm not saying you didn't handle it well. Looking at the incoherent Gwen, Dongfang Xing smiled and stroked her hair. Don't you have my phone? Gwen's eyes lit up. You mean I can ask you out? Definitely. Yeah. Gwen jumped up excitedly, and was about to give Dongfang Xing another reward. Squeak. The door opened, revealing a black-faced George. Gwen calmed down immediately. Dad. I'm back. Gwen said with a lack of confidence. The reality is 22:04, you are 4 minutes overtime. George said with a straight face. Sorry, Director George. Dongfang Xing took over the conversation. It was some mistakes of mine that caused Gwen to come back so late. Dongfang Xing's rescue made Gwen look at him gratefully. How can you not love such a caring man? George looked at Dongfang Xing, his eyes softened a little. Obviously recognized him. After all, there is life-saving grace first, and there will be. George moved away. Mr. Dongfang, don't you mind coming in for a chat?